What's up, Tamers? Welcome back to The Other Decks. My name's Casual Dobo, and today, we're a little off-brand. So if you didn't know already, the whole point of this channel is to explore the other decks of Digimon. The rogue decks, if you will. Rogue players rise up! That said, in order to play rogue, you do need to know the meta. And as I started to explore some BT7, since that's coming out in March, I thought now would be a good time to take you on the journey with me as I explore the meta of BT7. So today, I'm going to give you count them, three meta deck lists for the BT7 format, which is important because it is going to look a little different than the Japanese format because we are officially in the post-ban list era. No more Mega Digimon Fusion, no more 4 copies of Reinforced Memory Boost. So just as a quick heads up, I will be going a little fast with these, mainly talking about the main strategy of the deck, what it's good at, what it's trying to do, and then giving a sample deck list that should serve as a pretty good foundation for anyone who wants to build this. However, if you want a more in-depth video about each of these decks, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you want to see some more meta stuff for BT7, or if you just want to jump into the spice. And while you're down there, if you could, give this video a like if you're enjoying the content and other content like it, and subscribe to the channel. We're growing at a pretty good rate. We're almost at 200 subscribers, which is kind of crazy to me. So thank you to everyone who watches these videos, whether you're subscribed or not. I really appreciate it. So without further ado, let's hop into the deck profiles. But before I do, I did want to mention that the timestamps / chapters thing is enabled on this video, so that way if you want to come back to it, rewatch and see the deck list that you want, it'll all be embedded in there. So now, without further ado, let's hop into the deck profiles. Alright, so here we have what I'm calling BT7 Shine Hybrids. So I think one of the more obvious things to come out of BT7 was all the tamer support, right? We have Digimon that can digivolve from tamers in every color now. And so this was the perfect opportunity for Shine Greymon to come back to prominence. If you don't know what Shine Greymon does, because it has been a little bit, back from BT2, wild. Shine Greymon, when digivolving, suspend all of your yellow tamers, and then for each tamer suspended this way, activate one of the following effects. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 4,000 DP for the turn. And then, on your turn, this Digimon also gets plus 1,000 DP for every tamer you have in play. And so, going to the utmost extreme, we are running like 12 tamers in this thing. We have 3 of the memory TKs, 2 TK Inkaris, 3 of the new Zoe Orimoto, and then 4 TK Takaishi. And then while I'm here, if you don't know what Zoe does, on play you can look into your security stack and then get a Digimon with hybrid or 10 warriors in its traits, reveal it, and then add it to your hand. So essentially she works like memory TK, just for hybrid specifically. Now looking at it, you probably could switch up the ratios and have 4 of the Zoes and then 3 of the TK starters. But I kind of like this, just to give us a cheap tamer to play for 2. But the main thing I want to focus on is actually the hybrid package here, in Kazimon, Zephyrmon, and Jet Sylphimon. Particularly Kazimon and Jet Sylphimon. So one of the things that made this deck pretty scary was that it could get to its mega pretty quickly. So if you had Bokumon out in the field already, which is a common card you'll kind of see amongst all of the hybrid decks that I'm going to talk about. So on play, it says reveal top 5, add a card with hybrid in its form, or 10 warriors in its type, and a tamer card from among them, and then put it into your hand. Then you can place the rest of them in the bottom of the deck, but the ability we're looking at here is on your turn, once per turn, when your tamer digivolves, gain 2 memory. So essentially you could digivolve into this Kazimon for free, and then go into your Jet Sylphimon for 2 because of its 1 ability, that if there's a tamer in its digivolution sources, you can digivolve for 2. And the great thing about Jet Sylphimon is that when digivolving, if it has hybrid in its type, in its traits, it gets to recover plus 1. So this is relatively cheap recovery built into the hybrid package for yellow. And you've only spent a total of 2 memory, assuming the Pokemon was already out and you had your tamer out there already. So it's still your turn, and then you can digivolve for 4 into Shine Greymon, putting your opponent at 3, and then activate its ability. So if you're facing this thing, even if you're building up a pretty good board and have some pretty good momentum, in the blink of an eye, you can get Shine Greymon, which is wild. And then besides Shine Greymon, the other Mega we have in here is Dynasmon, who just adds a little bit more stall ability, making sure that if something is trashed from our security, if we're at 3 or fewer, we get to recovery +1. Even though we can't go into it for, really cheap with that Mega Digimon Fusion play anymore, it's still a pretty good card for this deck because you're going to have a lot of things in your trash, lots of things are going to be recovered. It's a stall deck, right? This just helps us with a little bit more recovery in the sense that we can put things from our trash into our deck. That way, we don't deck out. If you've ever played, a stall deck, a security control, yellow recovery deck, there's a good shot that you're gonna deck out before you win. So Susanomon kind of helps alleviate some of that pressure. So this is good for just making sure our deck at least has 10 more cards in it, while also just being a very solid big body. 15,000 DP, security attack +2. When digivolving, delete a Digimon. So really quickly, let's go over the actual numbers and ratios and stuff. So for this deck profile, we do have 4 Upamon as our Digitama, 4 copies of Bokomon, 4 copies of Salamon, who can digivolve on top of the Upamon and has some pretty good recovery, 4 copies of Kazumon, 4 copies Zephyr, 3 copies of Rise Greymon to support our Tamer plays, 4 copies of Jet Sylphie because of the recovery, 4 copies of Shine Greymon, does bad things in this deck. We do have 1 copy of Sequoiamon just because of the Gabu Bond play, 2 copies Dynasmon, 2 copies Susano, 1 copy of Reinforced Memory Boost just because it's solid, 4 copies of Wyvern's Breath because it's just a good removal, 1 copy of Yellow Memory Boost just in case we do want to go into that Susanomon play. We don't want to give too much of an advantage to our opponents. So going into our Tamers, which I think I mentioned already, but 3 copies of Memory TK, 2 copies of TK and Kari, 3 Zoe, and then 4 of the starter deck TK. So there it is. That is BT7 Shine Hybrids. Now let's move on to the next one. Alright, and so here we have blue hybrids, specifically the MagnaGarurumon deck. So if you don't know what MagnaGarurumon does, when digivolving and when attacking, once per turn, we can return a Digimon card with hybrid in its traits from the Digivolution sources and return it to our hand. And then, because we did that, we can return an opponent's Digimon with the same level as a return card to their hand. So if we return like a level 4, we can return a level 4 to their hand, and then trash all Digivolution sources on their card. And then on our turn, once per turn, when an effect adds a card to our hand, we can unsuspend this Digimon. So right off the bat, inherently, with just those 2 abilities, we get 2 swings out of it. And if we pair it with some of the other Digimon we have in here, there's some good aggro that can happen here. And obviously, this would combo off with our Koji Minamoto. So Koji here actually allows us to place 5 cards with hybrid in their traits from our hand and then put under a Tamer, and then we can actually warp Digivolve essentially from Koji into a MagnaGarurumon for the Digivolution cost, as if this was a level 5 Digimon. And then the inheritable of once per turn, when an effect adds a card to hand, we gain a memory. Then this Digimon can't be blocked, which is wild. But I mentioned this because if you put a MagnaGarurumon underneath of Koji, you can then use MagnaGarurumon's ability to return that I'm going to say MagnaGarurumon a lot, so bear with me. You can use this main MagnaGarurumon's ability to return a MagnaGarurumon from Digivolution sources in order to return a level 6 Digimon on your opponent's side of the field to their hand, which is wild. This is honestly one of the strongest return to hand abilities, because it's one of the very few that can target level 6s, potentially. You do have to have the right setup, but it is very strong. In order to support our MagnaGarurumon, we do have both versions of Strabimon. So we have the BT4 one, which searches top 3. We can add a hybrid Digimon and or a blue Tamer from among them to our hand. And then similarly, the BT7 one is another searcher, but this one reveals top 4, and then we can add a card with hybrid and trait, Susanomon or Koji. So kind of specific, which is why I only have it at 3, but both of these searchers, both of these Strabimon, fantastic cards. Much like the yellow hybrid package, we do have 4 copies of Pokemon, who is a fantastic searcher, allows us to get a hybrid or 10 warriors, and a tamer of any color. So blue is in an interesting spot where it has 2 of these tamers from Digimon Frontier in its color, and so thus we have 2 evolution lines for that. We do include the Kumamon and Korikakumon package in here, just because that combined with our Tommy tamer has some pretty good, not stall potential, but stun, right? We can strip Digivolution sources using Tommy, using Kumamon's Digivolution ability, and then we can stun them with Korikaku, because he says when Digivolving, if we have hybrid in its traits or Tommy in the Digivolution sources, one of our opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution sources can't attack or block until the end of next turn, which, if anyone's played, Hexaplow or a Zulongmon, if your opponent has a level 6 and you strip all the sources away from them and stun it, there's not really a great way for them to get more Digivolution sources unless they Digivolve into a level 7. So, if you can strip a level 6, they're kind of stuck that way for a while. And while this deck doesn't have the same stun power as Hexaplow, right? This still has fantastic utility, especially for a 2-cost Digivolution on top of the tamer. But we do include the MagnaGarurumon and Beowulfmon, both versions. And I like this combo here of MagnaGarurumon for BT7 when Digivolving. If it has hybrid or Koji in its Digivolution sources, it gains jamming. So you can swing in with this guy and jam into security, and then Digivolve into BT4 Beowulfmon, who, if you have hybrid in its form, it can't be targeted as an attack. It also has jamming inherently, but the main thing we're seeing here is invincibility, essentially, which is awesome. And real quickly before I, rattle off all the numbers, we do have Susanomon here, but we're using it a little differently in this deck. Susanomon actually is here to be a, huge body, sort of, not necessarily our main win con, but this is just a powerful Digimon, right? And so we're including win rate 60% in here as a replacement for Mega Digimon Fusion, so that we can turn Susanomon from a 7-cost memory play into a 5-cost memory. Because essentially you got to pay 2 for Mega Digimon Fusion, but it reduces Digivolution by 4, so that would make this a 3. So 2 plus 3, 5. Math. And then, yes, it pains me because I really dislike Ice Wall, but I do include 1 copy of Ice Wall in here, just because sometimes you need it. But anyway, let's go over the deck numbers. So we are running 4 copies of Upamon, who is just a fantastic Digi-Egg, 4 copies Strabimon, 3 copies BT7 Strabimon, 4 copies of Pokemon, 4 Kumamon, 4 MagnaGarurumon, 3 Korikakumon, 3 BT4 Beowulfmon, 4 BT7 Beowulfmon, which I forgot to mention, when attacking you can turn a hybrid from the Digivolution sources, and then also return one of your opponent's level 4 lower Digimon to their hand. So yeah, 4 MagnaGarurumon, 4 Susanomon, 1 Ice Wall, 3 Hammer Spark just because it's good, 2 win rate 60%, and then for our tamers, 2 Sora and Joe, 4 Tommies, and then 3 Kojis. And you're probably wondering, for a MagnaGarurumon, why did I have it at this ratio? Tommy's effect is just really good. It removes 3 Digivolution sources from the bottom of one of your opponent's Digimon. That's just super solid. But yeah, I do like 4 of Tommy over 4 of the Kojis. But yeah, so that is BT7 MagnaGarurumon Blue Hybrids. Now, on to the last deck profile. Alright, and so here we have Red Hybrids. So this one's interesting because it didn't actually do that hot in Japan. The meta over in Japan was pretty much dominated by yellow and blue hybrids, but that was in the era of Mega Digimon Fusion, right? Yellow could just stall and recover until it got all its pieces. Blue had Ice Wall, 4 copies of it, so it essentially could stall until it got all of its pieces. But also, it can go into its MagnaGarurumon play a little bit quicker than, EmperorGreymon in Red Hybrids. But I wanted to kind of give this some shine, just because I think post-banless with Mega Digimon Fusion, banned, and then all of the restrictions that we have, I think BT7 is going to be a little bit more of an even playing field. And so I think Red Hybrids has a shot of doing pretty darn well in this meta. And it all revolves not around your level 6s, but actually around your level 5s. So one of the things that made this deck list slow is, I would say, Takuya, right? So it's Koji's equivalent in red, but instead of from the hand, you can place 5 cards with hybrid in their traits from the trash underneath of this in order for you to digivolve into EmperorGreymon, essentially. Now that's pretty slow for red. You know, it's not exactly, you know, blue can draw for days given some of its cards, so it can get into that condition, into their condition a little quicker. It's a little tougher for red to trash inherently, right? But essentially, the way that I would operate this deck is just unga bunga, swing baby swing. And to be honest, our level 6 kind of embodies that, right? So when digivolving, it has Blitz, so it can attack even after you pass 0. And then on your turn, once per turn, if this is blocked, you can unsuspend it, gain a memory for each Digivolution card with hybrid in its traits. So if you do Takuya play, right? Put 5 hybrids underneath of it, digivolve into EmperorGreymon. You now have 5 hybrids underneath. If that thing's blocked, you gain 5 memory, and it's your turn again. EmperorGreymon, super solid. For all my D&D friends out there, if there was ever a barbarian deck in Digimon, this would be it. But like I said, this deck doesn't necessarily revolve around EmperorGreymon per se. It kind of revolves around your level 5s, and that is both copies of Aldemon. So the main one we want to see is this one. So it does have reduced Digivolution costs if we have a Tamer in this source, and then when digivolving, if this card has hybrid in its form in its Digivolution sources, this gains plus 4,000 DP. So that is a 12,000 DP swing. But its inheritable is the main thing we want here. Your turn, while this Digimon has hybrid in its form or 10 warriors in its type, option cards checked by this Digimon do not activate their security effect. This is a delicate plan as an inheritable. This is fantastic. And then the other Aldemon says security attack +1, and then if there's something with hybrid in its form, or a red Tamer card, it gets plus 4,000. So this is an 11,000 DP as an ultimate. Pretty good. Now, why do I keep mentioning that this deck revolves around its ultimates? Well, we essentially want them to die. We need to find ways to get hybrids in the trash as quickly as possible. And so we do that by swinging. And especially, you know, we're just coming out of an era where there's Gabu bombs, Agu bombs, somewhat rookie rush. Security DP wise has been a little weak. So these are pretty safe hits, but even if they hit something big, or if they hit an option card and it kills it, we're kind of fine with that, because we need 5 of them in trash to activate Takuya. But these things are such good attackers that they could actually swing into security and survive. But they're such a menace, our opponent is kind of forced to attack into them. Otherwise, we could potentially swing for game next turn, you know. So they have incentive to destroy it. We have incentive for them to destroy it. It's kind of a win-win. And to sort of support that strategy, we do have a couple of options in Atomic Inferno, who says that if we have Digimon with hybrid in its form, it gets plus 3,000 DP, security attack +1, and the ability that on your turn, if it's blocked, we gain 3 memory. So this just powers up our Aldemon even more, going even further beyond, and forcing our opponent to have to make some hard decisions. We also have Flame Memory Boost, which gives one of our Digimon security attack +1, and then it also has that delay ability to give us 2 memory later on. And then similarly, we do have the Susanomon win rate 60% combo. Similar to the blue hybrids one, we are using Susanomon as sort of, you know, an actual Digimon, which sounds weird, I know, but we're actually using it as not our main win con, but one of our win more conditions. So yeah, if you combine that with our Memory Tamer, Flame Memory Boost, and then win rate 60%, once again, it goes down to a 5 memory play. And if we can get that 5 memory and still be able to swing with 15,000 security attack +2, that's pretty damn good. So yeah, if we can get it out for 5 memory and still have it be our turn, Susanomon is just, you know, a big hitter. Swing, baby, swing. But yeah, so let's go over numbers. So we have 4 copies of Garurumon, 3 copies of BT4 Flamemon, which, like the Strabimon from the blue one, reveal top 3, add a card with hybrid, or 1 red tamer. Similarly, we have the BT7 Searching Flamemon, which reveals top 4, then can add a hybrid Susanomon or Takuya. Now, an interesting inclusion in here is actually the BT6 Flamemon because of this inheritable. When this Digimon has hybrid or 10 warriors in its form or type, it gains piercing. So if you combine that with our Aldemon's inheritable, which means, no security options triggered or effects, with EmperorGreymon, that's a big hitter. Truly a barbarian deck. But yeah, I wanted to include 3 copies of this Flamemon, which means we did have to reduce some things. So I did reduce Pokemon to 3. Could have it at 4, but I'd probably have to reduce this to 2, and honestly, I don't want to. So 3 is across for the rookies. Feels pretty good. Moving on to the champions, we do have 4 copies of Agunimon from BT4, and then 3 copies of the BT7 Burning Greymon. And I didn't include the other Burning Greymon, mostly because I don't know if it's that worth it to include it. This Burning Greymon just feels a little better than the other one, mostly because of the utility of where it can Digivolve from, right? It can Digivolve from level 3s for 3, it can Digivolve off a Tamer for 2, and then it can also Digivolve off of level 4 for 1 cost. And then going into our ultimates, we do have 3 copies of BT4 Aldermon, 4 copies of BT7 Aldermon, 4 copies of EmperorGreymon, 2 Susano, 3 Atomic Infernos, which I discussed already, 2 Flame Memory Boost, 2 Gaia Force, because it wouldn't be a red deck if we didn't play some Gaia Force, so it's here. You can probably, if you wanted to, include more of it and cut one of these cards, but I think 2 is fine. 2 win rate 60%, and then going into our tamers, 3 Tai Kamiyas, 4 Takuya Kambaras, and then 2 of the starter Tai. So I was playing with the idea of swapping out this BT1 Tai Kamiya with Marcus as the memory tamer, but I think I like Tai Kamiya's ability a little better. Sure, I'm missing out on the 1 memory by swinging in with, EmperorGreymon if I have a traditional sort of Digivolution stack. However, combined with the Takuya play, where 5 cards are going underneath of it anyway as the Digivolution sources, we can get the security attack +1 from Tai Kamiya pretty easily. And the more we make EmperorGreymon menacing, the better it is. And there we have it, 3 meta decks for the BT7 format. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about these deck profiles. Are they good foundational pieces? What would you include in them? What would you take out? Are they worth it to run in BT7 now that we don't have Mega Digimon Fusion? And if you want a more in-depth video on each of these decks, let me know down in the comments as well. If you liked the video, please give it a like, and for more content like this, as we explore BT7 and EX1 and some of the other kind of spicier decks, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it. Hoping to do something pretty cool once we hit 200 subs. But I'm appreciative of everyone who watches these videos. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And don't forget to go rogue. I'll catch you in the next video.